Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League and welcome to Season 21, Round 5 of the Championship. Welcome to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix here from the Jeddah Corniche circuit. I'm your host, Zach RC, bringing you through all the action of what should be, as always, an enthralling encounter around this very difficult street circuit. They're one of the fastest, if not the fastest street circuits on the calendar, without a shadow of a doubt. So our first few cars heading out onto the circuit, being led out by the Alpine of TTRA Harrison as far as... No, sorry, that is Spittles in the other Alpine, of course, made his debut last week in Bahrain and looking for a strong run in tonight's race. He heads his way out onto the circuit for the first time down towards turn number 4 and looking for a strong evening, Alpine. Obviously, at a half-decent start to the campaign, well, looked to have a bit more promising start to the campaign with Harrison behind the wheel. Obviously, a difficult start to his season, but still sits in 6th place in the Drivers' Championship. Spittles scored a P11 finish on debut last time out, so looking if he can to try and push forward and get in more of the same. So out on circuit then for the first time, our first few cars taking to the track. You see Pope there in the Ferrari. Difficult start to the campaign so far for him. Only the one 5th place finish scored in China. His other 3 finishes has been 11th in Australia and 2 retirements in the last 2 races, 1 in Japan and 1 in Bahrain. So difficult start to proceedings then for Ferrari as a whole. Obviously, Imri took the lone victory, and that's Ferrari's. That makes it 25 of Ferrari's 35 so far this season. So it's been a difficult start for the Scuderia as a whole, but looking to try and push back and get Pope some points. A circuit at which he is. Well, not quite the defending winner. Won the race before last. Won this race around a calendar year ago, back in season 19 with the 2025 cars. And following him there is one of the Haas machines. That's the one being piloted by Curtis, who of course rode to a 13th place finish. Unfortunately, snapping his point streak from the first 3 races. But first laps are coming up here. Spittles is coming towards the lines to begin his first effort. Here he goes towards turn 1. And looking to what should be a very exciting lap to watch here. He takes turns 1 and 2 quite tight. First apexes there on corner exit. Getting himself back over to the left-hand side. Of course, back over to the right. Out of the way, the Haas there going towards turn number 4. That will be Curtis in the Haas, as far as I know. In through turn 5. And into the S's here, keeping these nice and steady as he rides through turns 8 and 9. Careful to run onto that curb through turns 8 and 9 on the outside. Can be costly for a lap. Drivers get it wrong. Straight mode in play on the run down towards turn number 13. The sweeping left-hander at the far end of the circuit. Of course, 4 straight mode zones in play around the circuit. And battery will be a big thing here because a lot of long straights on the circuit. The circuit is comprised practically completely of long straights and a few sort of more technical sections, such as what we saw in the first sector earlier on from turn 5 down to about turn 12. So not a lot of places to try and save battery here. Lyco will definitely be utilised on this circuit, I think, more than anywhere else. You see him sort of lifting off a bit there. 1 minute 2.4 in the second sector for Ben as he hits the inside wall there, going in through turn 24, in through 25 now. Straight mode again activated and looking for a clean run here, going down towards the final corner, turn 27. Looking for a solid run to complete his first effort in qualifying and put the first time of the evening on the board. So Spittles towards the line, one of the Audis in behind him. I'm guessing that's the Audi of PJ. Spittles 1:30.7. PJ in behind. What can he do? PJ goes faster by just under 2 tenths or so there. So a good start for PJ Khaled, who puts himself in there. Top time as of right now. We hope just coming up the line now to his first lap and goes fast there. 1:30.126. And Curtis immediately outdoing that by, yeah, about a tenth and a half or so there. So big gains for Curtis in the Haas. As I say, 8th, 7th and 9th in his first 3 races this season, but 13th last time out. A race by comparison, a race to forget in Bahrain. So looking to try and go that one step further in tonight's race. As Huff now goes fast. Of course, Huff emerging as one of the closer challengers this season, and the last 2 or 3 rounds has been gunning for his first race victory. 5th, 2nd, 2nd, and 2nd in his first 4 races in this campaign. Of course, his first 4 races as a full-time driver in the RDL. Let's not forget, plenty of experience against these guys under his belt. Of course, it's Grumio and Dan who I think will be the key challengers who has to take on, as we saw last week in Bahrain. What could have been a three-way race for the win, unfortunately turned sour for 2 of our contenders, one of them being Huff, who unfortunately fell foul of a late challenge by Dan, who himself had a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pits. Grumio got himself out to a lead that was just over 3 seconds. He had a penalty of his own, and the reigning champion picked up his second win of the season. So that's actually a round-up from last week in Bahrain under the lights, and Grumio looking to go again, keep up his 100% record so far this season. He is won every single race he started, of course. Missed China and missed Japan. So only sitting on 50 points then from these first 4 races, and 23 points off of Dan in the top spot, who's finished on the podium in every single outing so far this season, circa Michael Schumacher back in 2002. But Dan yet to leave the pit lane here. His teammate 10th Cannon is out on circuit. 10th has gone second fastest on her first lap. 10th who came away with good points in the end. A 4th place finish post the stewards report. So 12 points for her this season, and that puts McLaren 5 points clear of Red Bull now on top of the Constructors' Championship. In terms of Constructors, obviously, Huff has been pushing things so far for Red Bull. Websy scored 16 points, 2 point scores in the first 4 rounds, but a retirement last time out. And looking to get himself back on the horse, or back on the build in this case, and push forward in the pursuit of some more points to try and help Red Bull take that lead back. Mercedes in 3rd place, 11 points behind. They're on 74 for the season so far. 50 for Grumio and 24 for AT. He's had a difficult last 2 Grand Prix. As Grumio comes to the line himself, it's a 1:28.777, and that is a big gain. That's a big gap compared to the gap between Huff. What was the gap initially between Huff and Curtis? I mean, we've seen a number of drivers come through and put laps in at this point. So, but Grumio, regardless, half a second up there on the closest competitor, Huff, in 2nd place. 14 drivers of our current 19 have set lap times. Are waiting on Alvar, I believe, to join us. We're currently missing Lucky Lambert and also missing Shadow Rain. So Courtney Goblin by himself in the Cadillac and JB by himself in the Williams after, of course, a contentious collision between those 2 growth-based cars last week in Bahrain. Sort of late on, wasn't fighting for points, but of course the cardinal sin of racing and Formula 1 is that you don't crash into your teammate. But unfortunately, those 2 came to blows last week. But Williams still sitting in a, I would say, a comfortable 5th in the championship in the Constructors. But as of right now, only 1 point in front of Haas and only 6 points in front of Alpine. So, and 7 in front of RB. So honestly, it's still awfully close here. As you see, Ben having the Merc of Grumio tucked up right behind him there. Of course, Ben, who didn't have the most pleasant experience last time he had a race around this circuit. At least in this league. Alvar now joining the session, so we're up to 20 cars. So we are just missing those 2. So a lone Williams and a lone Cadillac in tonight's Grand Prix. Alvar's got plenty of time to come through and put in a lap time of his own, so we'll see how he gets on with that. So Ben into the pit lane then after the end of his first run. Slowest time so far there with the 1 minute 31.538. So we're looking to improve on his next lap. Spittles there, of course, put the first time in. He's currently down to P11 in the running order for Alpine. And being out-qualified as it stands by just about 9/10 or so to his teammate Harrison in P4. Harrison is, of course, looking for some form of redemption in tonight's Grand Prix. 6th place for him last time out in Bahrain. So he still had a fairly modest start to his season. 23 points from the first 4 races, nothing to sniff at. And good enough, as I say, for P6. Only 1 point, though, in front of HP Cook. And 6 points in front of Shadow Rain in 8th place. But with Shadow Rain out of commission for tonight's Grand Prix, well, I should think that we'll be seeing, likely to be seeing a gain for those 2 in 6th place and 7th place. Alvar yet to join the circuit for Aston Martin. Both Astons now in the race. Websy out on circuit. Websy had a bit of a last gasp on a catastrophe in terms of getting his car in before the session started. The game has fortunately placed him in the Red Bull, so we needn't worry about having to mark him down as driving for another constructor, i.e. Cadillac or Williams. So things worked out quite nicely for Websy. And as I say, 2 point scores this season. Currently in P16, so one of the 6 drivers yet to put a lap in. Same thing for Cott, who's in reserve for Imri tonight. Imre, who will join us because he is celebrating his birthday tonight. So happy birthday to Imre from all of us here at the RDL. And we'll look forward to seeing him back next week for the race in Miami. That'll be an exciting one, as it always is. Dan out on the circuit for the first time now. I dare say, man, we've got a tow off his teammate 10th, who already finds himself in 3rd place. It could be 4th here. It is 4th as Dan jumps into 3rd place. 3 thousandths off of Huff in 2nd, but still about almost 5.5 tenths off of Grumio currently in provisional pole. And that looks like a mark that might not get toppled in this session unless we see some big gains from one of those two. I dare say likely the key contenders who will be tasked with stopping the 11-time series champion tonight. Of course, Dan leads the Drivers' Championship by 9 points as it stands right now over Huff. A victory for Huff and a 2nd place finish for Dan would close that lead down to just 2 points. A victory for Huff and a 3rd place finish or lower for Dan would allow Huff to assume control of the championship lead for the first time in his career. So a lot on the line then, even this early on in the season for Huff, as he goes up by just under 2 tenths there in the first sector. He's going through turn 13 now, going to run on board. He's in through 14. And into the braking zone at turn 16. Very controlled, plenty of battery to use there. Still got obviously overtaking mode in play the entire lap. And straight mode in use as well. You can hear him backing off there to try and get a bit more battery in for this last run down towards turn 27. AT retiring there. AT with a qualifying ban after the opening lap incident in last week's Bahrain Grand Prix. So AT likely will find himself in a dead last on the starting grid. Huff into the pit lane though, so calling it quits. 5 minutes to go now. Pope has found himself back into 4th place again, over 10th. The car's currently on a lap right now. JB slow in the first sector. Ethan going down towards turn 4 now. Found some gains on his run there. He's 1 minute 30.701, enough for P13 right now. But about 5.5 tenths off of his teammate PJ Caladin P11, who's into the pits now himself, Rowdy. JB in through the chicane down at turn 23. Of course, JB, the first driver to run the new Williams, the model now into the game for the first time. Obviously, one of the ones that, well, the only model that got missed out when waiting for the DLC. So good to see the Williams there looking fantastic in all its glory. And JB into the pit lane then. Spittle's on a lap, or about to go onto a lap here. P14 right now. 3rd to last, slowest in terms of the times. Yellow flag out up at turn number 16. One of the Red Bulls going slowly. My assumption is that is Websy, who has put a lap in, so is on his in lap back towards the pits. Alvar out on circuit for the first time tonight. He's had a tough race in Bahrain and looking to recover himself. 2 points from him from these first 4 rounds. Scores in Australia and Japan. There's only 2 points for Aston Martin all season here, so he jumps into P12. And Aston Martin 7 points away from Audi in 10th place. Cadillac in P9 on 17, courtesy of Shadow Rain. So down to Cottony in what can often be a chaotic race, these in Saudi Arabia, to perhaps push forward and take some luck from this race and nab a point or two for Cadillac. Of course, may mention of the battle going on sort of in the midfield in terms of the constructors. Ferrari 6 points clear in 4th place of Williams, and from Williams it's 1 point back to Haas, it's another 5 points back to Alpine, and another 1 point back to VCARB. So currently, that's 4 teams separated by just 7 points. And 5 separated by 12, if you include Cadillac in that. And then from there, it's 6 separated by 17. So awfully close from P4 down to P9 right now. Of course, Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren have opened things up a little bit more. 74 points for Mercedes. Alvar on the way down towards, like, back towards the pit lane. Dan's on his out lap here. So needs to get some work done on this lap. Ideally, needs to get himself a few tenths up on the board. 10th is coming out the pit lane now, so whether there could be a bit of teammate play in here. We've seen how good Grumio and AT are with the use of the toe on the longer straights in qualifying sessions. We've seen how good they are, but AT will not be able to back up Grumio with his quali ban. So we'll see here if the McLaren drivers can take the mantle. But Dan, of course, equally quite quick on his own. He took 2 of the first 4 poles this season. And up by a 10th in the first sector. Not enough to try and challenge just yet. He still needs to find about another 4 tenths over the course of the lap. Through 16 and 17. Fantastic car control here. Straight mode active once again. And heading down towards the split. We'll see how much time he's gained here as he runs up towards turn 22. Up by just under 3 tenths. Needs a bit more though. And is 10th backing off to try and give down a toe. Is there a plan in play for the two Papaya cars? 10th backing off though to allow Dan through. As we sort of near the last few minutes here, almost everyone out on circuit. And down towards the line, what can he do? He's still a 129, but he's up by... Actually, he lost time a bit in that last sector. 129.191. That's still a time that Huff could potentially beat. Grumio back out on circuit. I can't see how much more he can improve, truth be told. Of course, no such thing as the perfect lap, but we've seen in the past, Grumio comes very, very close. Still holds the record for most poles in a season. It was tied for the most poles last season in season 20. His only challenger in that regard from the last campaign is not with us in tonight's race. So Grumio looking to try and go uncontested here on the way to pole in Saudi Arabia. There's 30 seconds to go. So we are just waiting now on this last little train of cars to come round to the line and get their laps in. The last car in that train being PJ, who I think is on a time lap. Alvar is on his way around. Ericsson is on a timed run. He's P10 as it stands right now. And this is his run now. Yellow flag is out in front of them. 10 seconds to go. He just sends Bittles across the line for P13 there. Not a lot of time found for Alpine. Harrison down in P8 in a minute. And the checkered flag is up. So cars coming to the line now. Haas, last week, of course, locked out the front, locked out the... sorry, where am I looking? So that's the Cadillac Cottney who's gone through. P20 didn't get time in the end. Here come the 2 McLarens towards the line. Can 10th find anything? 10th into P5. Dan stays P2, which means the Grumio will likely take pole from here. Here comes Pope towards the line. Has Pope found any time? He's about half a tenth up in the end of sector 2. We'll see where he is now. He's into 3rd place, so jumping Huff, but Huff up by 3.5 tenths, leaving the 2nd sector. Could get himself into the 128s here. Is it enough to try and overhaul Grumio for pole? It's not. He gets it. Oh, he doesn't get there in the end. Gets the 129 zeros, but not enough for a 128, which means that Grumio will likely take pole here. The 2 Haas drivers, Tejas has had his luck deleted, so the Haas drivers can't get back themselves back onto the 3rd row like they did last week. But Curtis could to try and push forward and get himself a higher starting spot than 8th. Harrison into P6, we just saw there. Next car to the line is HB Cook. Then come the 2 Haas's. Cook to the line. Into P13. TJ pitting. Curtis pitting. So both cars calling it quits here. Alvar's on a lap charge towards the line. Grumio faster again. 128.568. And again, Grumio establishes that half-second advantage as Alvar finds P11. PJ in behind finds P12. Runs the line car over the wall towards the line. Spills into the pit lane, and that'll do it then. So qualifying draws to a close then, and here is your pole sitter. The reigning champion Grumio will lead us to the first corner in tonight's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It's going to be a heck of a race. So in the end, then 18 of our 20 runners got laps in. Only 19 of them could do that. Of course, AT serving as qualifying bands. The Silver Arrows at opposite ends of the grid here. Connie Goblin outside of those borders. He'll start dead last, but in a race that can be notorious for causing bits of chaos here and there, we could still be in for a very interesting evening, to say the least. As Haas bring Curtis' car into the garage, and that is session over. Grumio on pole and looking for win number 3 of the season. Back to his best, as it seems. Grumio on pole. He'll lead Huff to turn 1. Dan starts from 3rd place. Pope alongside 2 race-winning veterans there together on row 2. 10th in P5, Harrison in P6. The 2 Haas cars this week on row 4. Webbsy P9 and Ericsson rounds out your top 10 with Alvar not too far behind either. So qualifying complete, and the Grand Prix will start in just a moment. So time for the Grand Prix to get underway then here in the Races Driving League Season 21 Round 5. Welcome back to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where we are less than a minute or so away from the start of the race. Grumio on pole and looking to repeat as winner here from his victory back in Season 20. Here's a look at your circuit. 27 corners, the fastest street circuit on the calendar by in quite some way, if truth be told, when it comes to the Jeddah Corniche circuit. And often a harbour for chaos, to put it mildly, here in Jeddah. So looking potentially at the chance of a safety car at some point in this Grand Prix, I wouldn't put it past just the race in general for that to happen. Whether it would be sort of early on or perhaps quite late towards the end, but it's 25 laps. Of course, last season was one of our 100% races. And as that, we've done away with that rule for Season 21, keeping things simple at the half length. And we'll see here, who comes out on top. Grumio looking back to his best in tonight's qualifying session. And whether that could translate to the Grand Prix is another matter entirely, especially given how close he was run by Huff and Dan last week. And while he pulled away a little bit towards the end, only narrowly came away with victory in Bahrain. But he'll lead us either way onto the formation lap as our 20 cars take the grid and head out onto the circuit. Here's a look at your starting tyres. Hard tyres for the 2 cars on the back row didn't qualify. Have a look at your starting grid. Grumio starts from pole position. It's Huff starting in 2nd place for Red Bull. 9 points back with the opportunity to try and take the championship lead with a good result in tonight's Grand Prix. Dan starts from 3rd place. He leads the championship now. His main goal will be not only to win, but to try and maintain his advantage, if not extend it in the standings. Pope starts from P4. Difficult season so far for him as a whole at Ferrari. Only 1 point score from his first 4 rounds, and looking to a circuit which he's won recently to take victory. 10th starts from P5, following up her best race finish so far this season with the best qualifying of the season, and looking for more of the same for McLaren. Harrison starts from P6, didn't score 6th place in last week's race, but Only scored in 2 of the first 4 rounds. He's trying to increase his standing in the championship. Currently sitting just 2 points back from Imri in 4th place and 1 point behind AT. TJ starts P7, the 2 Haskars looking up the 4th row with Curtis in P8. Websy P9 has been getting carried so far by Huff in the constructors and needs to push forward to add to his 16 points, tie with TJ, who starts from P7. Ericsson in P10, him and Alvar there, P10, P11 for Aston Martin, trying to get themselves away from the foot of the table in the constructors. It's PJ P12, he leads the line for Audi tonight. Cook behind him P13 for VCarb. Spittles in P14, second race in the league, and again driving piloting the Alpine, looking for his first points. It's JB P15, of course, difficult collision with the luckiest teammate last week in Bahrain. We'll see if he can recover and get the growth based out for some points. Cott starts from P16, he's a reserve in place of Imri tonight. Ethan starts from P17 for Audi, and looking to try and push forward and join his teammate in challenging the front runners. Ben Wauer starts from P18 and looking for an improvement on his last race in Jeddah, which I'm sure I've told him all about by now. I've made too many jokes at this stage. AT starts from P19, got a quali ban after last week's instance in Bahrain, so starts in the back row, alongside Courtney Goblin, who went out on track later on, but couldn't get a lap in. As we have a look here as to how Huff will park himself. You can see him just sort of trying to go over to the right a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles things off the line as Harrison misses his grid slot. Courtney and AT taking their places here. Back row, AT with a lot of work to do. Still P5 in the standings, but only hasn't scored points in Japan or Bahrain. And looking to get himself back in the top 10 once again here as Courtney joins up next to him. Those last little revs before getting to the grid. And pushing over to the right to try and get in front of AT, perhaps cover him off. But waiting now on the start. Lights about to come on here for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The 5th race of the season about to get underway here in Jeddah. Under the lights for the 2nd time this season. Grumio and Huff on the race to the first corner. Lights up into the floor. And we are racing here in Jeddah. Good start from both of our front row starters. Huff with a better start though. Good launch from Huff on the inside. Grumio on the outside going towards turn 1. Side by side here. It's 2021 all over again. But the Red Bull driver leads away. Huff takes the lead from Grumio in turn 2. And down in behind them, Pope in 4th place. 10 still P5. Harrison still P6. But everyone keeping it nice and easy here. And getting into single file sooner rather than later. Ericsson down several places. Down to P13 there. Side by side with PJ. Yellow flags out. Car around. And that is Cod down the field. And the reserve in the Ferrari has picked up some damage. I think Ethan may have got a piece as well. I'm not entirely sure there. Looks like the Audi's all okay, but Cott has got damage on that right side of his front wing. So Cott down the field and Huff leading, but Grumio on his tail here to make the way in through turn number 14. And through towards 15 and 16. It's about a 3/10 lead the Huff's got, so not quite plain sailing just yet. It's T. Ericsson trying to get himself back forward again. He's made the pass on, but holding off Ben for P13 right now. Alvar down in P12. Spittles up several places, up to P11 here. 1 place off the points. And Cook sits in P10. The 2 Haskars have been both jumped by Websy in P7. It's all going on here in this first lap in Jeddah. Straight mode about to come active for the 3rd time on this lap. Going down towards turn 27. Both cars getting it, of course, it's still a race for the lead. And no overtake just yet. Got to wait for that line going in through turn 27, which is now. Into the final left-hander we go. And the line waiting for them there. That yellow line's keep an eye out for that. So straight motor back in play. And overtake for Grumio as well. Telemetry turn back on as he gets set to complete the first lap of the Grand Prix. And Grumio closing in all the time here in Huff. Fastest lap for the race leader. But Grumio going to try and change that now. Down the inside he goes towards turn 1. Contact by the back. Pope making contact. I believe making contact. And falling a bit down the order a little bit here. Losing several places. But Grumio up front snatches the lead from Huff. And for a second, looks I thought we were going to lose a few cars on the home straight, but not to be. Pope down the field here. Looks like he's got damage of some kind. I can't see anything on the wing, so whether it's floor damage, I'm not too sure. I'm not entirely sure what's happened there to Pope. He's managed to get back around Alvar, though. And Alvar, though, right in front of his teammate, Ericsson, has caught in the pit lane, fresh set hard tyres and new wingers on, and Grumio is gone like the wind here as he rounds turn 13, already 9/10 clear, almost a full second. Huff slides there in through turn 13, and Dan on the inside takes full advantage and goes scything through, says, "Thank you very much, mate. I will take P2 and I will run," as they go through turn 17. Dan in control now of 2nd place. Harrison into P5 there. I thought I saw him sliding going through turn 17, but keeps himself nice and steady here. Websy in behind him about 6/10 back. And you see TJ and Curtis bringing up again the top 8 here. Cook behind and Spirtles in P10, but Pope down the field, a strong disconnect. So down the order as JB going to try and challenge him on the inside now, going towards turn 22 and gets his way through. Alvar though cuts the corner in front. Ericsson is still in play, in behind him. Ericsson makes the pass. Alvar might be out of luck here, going down towards turn 27. Pope's AI going past him there. Alvar down 3 or 4 or even 5 places here. Going to try and outbreak anyone going down towards turn 27. You see 80 on the inside is almost close to contact. There was contact. And someone may have got more damage there. Not quite sure who. Pope's car still staying out, so no damage done, I should think. On to lap 3 here. He saw a fastest lap there. Can't quite see who from. Grumio fastest lap. You see JB cut the corner at turn 2. Whether he got caught for an illegal overtake, perhaps, not too sure. He backed off a fair bit there going through turn 2. But re-emerges in P12 in front of AT. And Pope down to P17 here. It's just not going right for Pope at all this season. The 2 Ferraris in the bottom 4 places. It's been a dreadful season for them so far as a whole. Minus, of course, the win for Imri back in Japan 2 weeks ago. And speaking of winning, Grumio's doing just that right now. 2 seconds now in front of Dan in 2nd place. Huff's in 3rd place, but Harrison now has managed to dispatch 10th Cannon and is now on the tail of the driver chasing our championship leader Dan in 2nd place. Dan, though, with his sights firmly set and trying to keep himself in front of, close to Grumio, and keep himself in front of Huff. Currently a 12-point lead that Dan holds now as we go live standings in the Drivers' Championship. Huff needs to get back around Dan to try and close the deficit, which he might try and do here. Potentially going down towards turn 22. Not quite this time. Curtis and Websy side by side. Bit of contact there. You see Curtis throw the hand up in frustration as Websy still holds his own on the inside but falls away from it going through turn 24. And there goes TJ through as well. Double whammy then for Websy as he falls back down to P8 as TJ goes around the outside of Curtis and finds P6 going into turn 27. Catch our breath here. What an exciting first 2 laps we've had here in Saudi Arabia. But right now, Grumio continues to expand his lead. He's now almost 3 seconds in front as Tough makes the pass on the outside of Dan down towards turn 1. Complete control then for Huff into 2nd, and his work now begins to try to close down on Grumio, who just increases that lead. He's absolutely gone off like a shot. And so not too akin to the the little thing that the greyhounds chase at dog tracks. Grumio has gone off, but it seems like no one has been able to catch him in particular. 3.2 the gap now. He's really pulling away here, and when I said Grumio back to his best, this seems beyond his best, given how close things were in the first race he contested in Australia. And that was only a month ago. And Huff has now got Dan Harrison still up his gearbox, and 10th Cannon not far behind either. 10th can try and pick up the pieces if she can. TJ and Curtis still giving chase. Cook now right behind Websy, 9th place. Biddle's in P10. JB in P11. So still plenty to race for here early on as Courtney Gold makes the pass on Pope, who recovers himself. So Courtney Goblin into P18 here for Cadillac. I'm not sure if is he got damage there? He might have, I'm not too sure. Dan making the pass on Huff, going down towards turn 27. And Spittle's passing Websy as well. Spittle's into P9. Ethan making the pass on Ben. Well, I say this, I mean, the midfield still looks quite close from P8 down to around sort of P14, P15. It's Alvar chasing PJ towards turn 1 as Dan and Huff still going at it here through turn 3. Huff wins out this time. Dan knowing to play it safe and back off for turn 4. No point trying to go for a move for there unless you absolutely have to. And Pope 10 seconds, and that's Pope out the race. Gutting stuff for Ferrari. Obviously, Cott's still going, but as a reserve, can't score points. And the Scuderia, I can see him down the pit with their head in their hands. Fred Vasseur, I have a lot of questions to answer, I should think, after the Grand Prix. It's Dan being challenged by Harrison on the outside. They're quite close to the outside wall. Very, very close quarters here between these front runners. And as they continue to fight, Grumio continues to extend his advantage. Almost 4 seconds now to the point. And he's gained almost a second a lap or so here. Huff pulling away a little bit here from Dan Harrison. But for how long? Because likely we'll see at least one of them take overtake mode as Ben Spittles gets a 3-second penalty, multiple warnings in play for him there. Still running in P9. Websy on the cusp, on the tail end of the points. JB with Ben's penalty now on the cusp with them. Running in P11 as you see Spittles go a bit wide there through turn 27. Websy right behind. He'll have overtake once again. Only boost mode in play for the Alpine in front of him. Can he take advantage? Going down towards turn 1. We're on lap 6 now this Grand Prix. It's been flying by so far. As we enter turn 1 for the 6th time between these guys, bringing P9 and P10. JB want to try and get involved sooner rather than later, and AT same thing. AT, of course, one of those 2 drivers who started on the hard tyre. And Dan still giving Huff pressure. Yellow flags out as cut around down here at turn 27. And oh, VSC's out. And I think Huff gun. I think Cot gun around might have caused that. Yes, so VSC's out, and I can tell Grumio likely to be breathing a sigh of relief inside the car because a safety car would have wiped out his advantage immediately. But no full safety car. Cot has gone into the pit lane, and a second front wing repair is in order for that team tonight. 4.4 seconds for Grumio. Green flag comes back out again. Back to racing on lap 6. And Dan want to try and get around Huff sooner rather than later with a bit more battery stored up. Harrison there in P4. 10th by herself, or almost by herself, in P5. She's got TJ for company now, but it's about a second and a half back to Curtis from there. But things looking good for McLaren right now. Currently scoring 25 points compared to the 20 for Red Bull. So, still gains. And it's 25 points also going the way of Mercedes. So Mercedes not getting anything right now in the constructors. But if they can, if AT can join the top 10, but as I say that, currently oh, very close there to contact with Websy. Not entirely sure what that was. But I can see now JB's got a very sort of hungry looking group on his tail. Ericsson and PJ not far behind either. AT chasing Alvar, then Websy, then JB. So still points in the line for these guys early on. Spittles in the pit lane there. First pit stop of the race for Ben. In for a set of hard tyres. The question being, how long can these hard tyres go around the circuit? Because I should think that we'll see the majority of drivers, if not all of them, try and get through the one stop. Grumio 4 seconds later. His advantage, or at least the amount of which he was gaining it, has started to stagnate just a little bit here. So is that a sign perhaps that perhaps Huff, Dan and Harrison may start to close him down a bit? AT in front of Alvar. Alvar's falling away. And could this be a problem with the Aston Martin? There is a problem. He's got damage on the right side. End plate loss for Alvar. And that will likely mean his first stop of the Grand Prix, if I had to guess. Dan again passing Huff. The more these two fight, the more chance there is Grumio expands his lead. As TJ passes 10th, you see Websy and JB going at it. TJ around 10th, as I say, into P5 now. But 10th, about a second or so clear of Curtis in P7, TJ's teammate. But Haas in prime position right now to try and take P5 in the constructors away from Williams, and potentially even P4 from Ferrari with a good enough run. If they can score at least 8 points, which they are doing. They're scoring 16 at the minute. They'll end up in front now of Ferrari by 8 points. Cop penalty, first of the evening for him. Track limit warnings. But again, I mean, not a lot to fight for in his case. Short for safety car in this Grand Prix. As Grumio gets back to opening his lead up a little bit here. It's up to 4.4 seconds. Dan trying to pull away here from Huff. Harrison has just been sort of waiting in behind him, 4th place. Waiting for an opportunity to try and pass. The question is, how long can he wait if he's going to go? Because the laps will count up and wind down quite quickly. Grumio rounding turn 27 here in complete control. Bit of a slide there, leaving turn 27. His 10th can gets back around TJ and equally behind. Cook passing Curtis, AT passing JB. Might try and pass Websy too. Can't quite get there. And leaves the inside open as JB makes his move on the inside in through 27. Good exit from AT, going to help him pull in front. And I'm going to try and take Websy. JB same thing on the outside now. All of a sudden, these two fighting for his 9th place on circuit. Websy pulls back to the inside, 3 wide towards the first corner. And JB wins out. Laced on the brakes. And Websy loses out. No points now, and no overtake mode either. So things made a bit tougher then for Websy. On to lap 9 now, the Grand Prix, and Grumio still in complete control of this thing. TJ in front of 10th Canada here, going down towards turn number 16. And again, these two going at it. Still 1.4 to Curtis and Cook in their own fight behind. And another 3 seconds to JB, who's trying to pull away now from AT, Websy, and Ericsson. Albert, of course, in the pit lane. There's Cotton Goblin passing Ben. Those two fighting over P15 as it stands. Courtney getting away. Another pass here. These two going consistently back and forth here in the race for that 5th spot. Same thing for the race for 7th behind them. And all of the top 4 staying out a bit longer on those medium tyres. In comes 10th though. But VSD's back out. Not, everyone's still going. Not quite sure as to what for. Oh, and 10th is... No, okay, well, I'm not so sure what that was. I mean, 10th had a tyres change, but briefly appeared back on circuit for a moment there. And that's quite a daunting sight for a second, but 10th gets herself moving, has taken a free stop under the VSC, so the timing's worked out quite nicely for her. Hasn't lost as much time as she would do under a normal green flag pit stop. Curtis, same thing. I think everyone who's sort of going to pit lane before the VSC came out has worked out quite nicely for them here, as Ben pulls away. And Spitzel, same thing. Oh, and a few penalties there applied. Drive-throughs for speeding under the VSC. Spittle's out. Retires the car. Ericsson, Websy, PJ, all 3 of them now with drive-throughs, and that's going to make their evenings much more difficult. And what looked like a free stop under the VSC has turned into another free trip back down there, but a detriment to the time they'll lose. And imagine JB will be sitting behind or sitting in front of these guys, sort of rubbing his hands here. The prospect of the three closest challengers on the track right now, all 3 of them now behind them by a few seconds and with drive-throughs to boot. So JB seems to be sort of locked into P10, at least for now. But 10th and P7 here. Of course, she came into the pit lane while fighting TJ for the 5th spot, and now emerges about 14 seconds behind us, guys. In comes Dans, apologies, in for the first stop for the front runners in this Grand Prix. So these are things that's going to be a bit more interesting. Hard tyres on. Grumio now 5 seconds in front. His lead is definitely is still grown, but it's not grown as much as it did in the first part of the race. These not as strong perhaps when the medium tyres wear out, which is to be expected. TJ now in 3rd place, ATP4. Dan coming out in front of 10th, but not by much. And Harrison coming out behind, so 10th has closed the gap right up here with that VSC stop. As PJ Kelly gets a 10-second penalty, I think, while serving the drive-through. And that's going to be even more costly for the Audi driver. Websy and Ericsson appear to have gone away okay here. Ericsson serves his, Websy serves his. PJ, same thing, he's sorted his out, but now has a 10-second penalty to boot in the pit lane. And that'll be costly for Audi then. Ethan already down the field in P14. Spittle's unfortunately out. Of course, Alpine still have the one hope left in this race in Harrison as he continues to try and hound Dan, chasing him for what is now P5. Grumio and Huff, both cars still on circuit. 5.9 the gap from Grumio to Huff, make it 6 seconds now. Will we see the champion pit? Cott retiring too. So 3 cars out, double DNF for Ferrari. Grumio's in the pit lane. Huff, same thing. And where is Dan? Dan going through turn 27 now. Can he get himself out in front? Grumio's away towards pit exit now. The gap seems to definitely have closed a bit here. At least slightly, I should think. It's about 3 seconds or so now, from my count, between Grumio and Dan. Huff has fallen down the field a bit here. He's fallen in behind 10th and Harrison. So, oh! On the inside wall, Huff's out of it. And is that another VSC? I'm thinking so. I can't see the other light for the action safety car coming out. But Huff's out of the race, and that'll be huge then for Dan. And I dare say, with Grumio in the lead, in the net first place, that will drop Huff down to third place in the championship. But Dan's lead will now increase regardless, as long as he gets himself in the points. And now with an opportunity to try and win this thing, if he can get himself a bit closer to Grumio. One less card to fight. Harrison now put himself into a net third place on the podium. TJ leading right now. It's a shame he's not going to get around to pit lane in time before the green flag comes back out. Otherwise, a free pit stop will be in order for him. He'll be praying here the green flag doesn't come out just yet. But I should think it will once he comes around. That's where he's sort of near the halfway point here. So this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, we've got 4 cars out. And Huff, unfortunately, can just clip the inside wall at turn number 4. It's easily done. Very Charles Leclerc-esque. As TJ into the pit lane now. The VSC has lasted, but green flag now coming out. And it's back to work again. About 3.5 seconds here separating Dan from Grumio. Not to mention his teammate in play there as well. And AT could do Grumio a huge service here by keeping Dan at bay as much as he can, but Dan likely having none of it. But he'll lose time through from this technical sector through turn 4 up to about turn 12, but unless he goes for it now, he's going to the outside. He's going to try the inside now for turn number 7 through turn 6. He's made it work. Dan in second place then, so AT has not had a great run then, holding Dan up. Dan's going to go for it now with no Huff to try and challenge him. He's got free reign to try and chase Grumio down. Ethan penalty there. Things get worse and worse for Audi tonight. Only 2 cars right now with penalties still in the race. That's Ethan's 3 seconds and Huff's and PJ's 10 for being obviously speeding in the pit lane when serving his drive-through. It's 4 seconds now between Grumio and Dan, so the gap's closed a little bit here, but not by much. TJ passing Curtis. Caught unfortunately out. And leaving the session there. And TJ really pulling a gap here on Curtis. Webb's the penalty. He's down in P16 right now, having just made his pit stop. And AT down to P4. TJ's emerged in P6 to be fair, so he's about the same race where he was. Harrison in third place as Grumio puts fastest lap in. I just think we'll see AT at some stage, but not just yet. Give him a few more laps. And we'll likely see an AT pit stop here with not too long to go. .3 the gap now between Dan and Grumio. Is there a chase on perhaps in the final 11 laps of this Grand Prix? That'll be the big question. We're going to have to back here. The 2 Audis trying to fend off Ben and Cottony. Straight road and overtaking play for Ben. Gets past PJ. Can he try and take Ethan too? Might be a bit much of an ask because Cottony, for a second, I thought he was going to try the inside, but didn't do it. PJ in behind in P15. Still that 10 seconds to serve. And I should think that likely he shall leave it. His best bet is, I think it's a safety car. Oh, Webbs is out. Webbs is in the pit lane. Webbs is out of it. Well, there we go then. That will spell the end of Red Bull's challenge in tonight's race. Webbsy also out. And I'm not quite sure why, but I start to wonder how many cars we're going to have left to talk about at the end of the race. We've lost 15 of our... we've got 15 left of our 20. And still no sign of the safety car tonight. We've had 2 VSCs now, but no safety car. Yellow flags then are out. Websy has the car pulled over there. Tough day for Red Bull. And this will likely mean a loss there. This likely mean a bigger loss of ground in the Constructors' Championship, because McLaren are already 5 clear in this race. Currently, they're scoring 30, so I'm 35 in front. And exact same amount of score being scored right now for Mercedes too, but AT yet to stop. So I just think that number will go down, but they're currently scoring 35 as well. But McLaren on course to expand their lead by another 10 points or so as it stands right now, should AT pit and lose places. But Red Bull likely be gutted with how things have not gone their way tonight. Huff's crash and Websy's retirement now. Despite Dan's best efforts, that lead continues to grow a bit here. 4.8 seconds, 4.9 for Grumio now. He's getting back up to that original 5. Harrison by himself in 3rd place, 3 seconds back from Dan, and 3 in front of 10th Cannon, who's on course for, right now, another 4th place finish. Which would double her tally for the season from 12 to 24. And help her jump sort of back towards the mid part of the top 10 in the standings in terms of the drivers. Grumio on those tyres that are 1 lap fresher continues to stretch his lead. Ben HP Cook side by side through turn 2. Sorry, Curtis and HP Cook side by side through turn 2, apologies. Curtis back to the inside for turn 4. This could end badly. Let's be careful here, boys. Both cars get away unscathed, and Cook takes P7 away. Fantastic racing spin so far. Inside the final 10 laps here in Jeddah. There's your leader, continuing to make progress. And I was wondering potentially if perhaps the safety car for Huff's crash would have slowed things right down for Grumio. It appears not. The VSC sufficed to get the car off the track. And it could be a save Grumio's skin from another fight. But saying that, since getting the lead back from Huff early on this Grand Prix, he's been off like a shot. Lap after lap after lap. Yes, just 9 laps remaining now. AT finally into the pit lane now. He's done 16 laps on those hard tyres, and we're set to, I should think, go out to a set of mediums at the end. There it is. Mercedes out for their last pistol for the Grand Prix, and AT's away. He's going to fall down to what looks like, so we are sort of around P12, P13. We'll see where the Audis emerge. There's Alvar into P9. Aston Martin scoring some points as it stands, but there it is. Oh, penalty for him. 3 seconds, and that'll mean that AT is going to jump back and forward. But again, I mean, Aston's still not losing those points because Ericsson is still over 3 seconds behind. AT penalty for himself now. And these two, all of a sudden, are going to be fighting to the end of the Grand Prix to maintain their points paying places. Can't serve those in the pits, those 3 second ones. Grumio now 7.2 in front, continues to increase that advantage every time. And Dan with no real reply here. Harrison still by himself in 3rd, and perhaps trying to close the gap down a bit on Dan. 10th in P4, TJ P5, some 4 seconds behind. Curtis P6, he's still got Cook for company. JB P8, again, he's sort of in no man's land right now, but with a bit of pushing to try and push forward and try and challenge Cook and Curtis. The more they fight, the more JB could try and close in. So Cook gets back around him on lap 18 now, this Grand Prix. Alvar on AT in behind in the race for P9. But the more these two in particular go side by side in these corners, That'll give JB the chance to close the gap. Fight goes on here. Cook might I thought was to try the inside for a second, not a bit of it. Stays where he is. JB still 3 seconds behind these guys. He's got work to do to try and close them down. Overtake boost is enabled for HB Cook. Will we see him use it out of turn 17 here? It's right on board. So we're using a bit of it here, trying to get himself up to speed. And closing the gap now to Curtis in P6. But backing off it, not making the move just yet. This time. We'll see him go for it now. Looking to the outside. No progress being made back up there. So we made the move on the home straight last time. There's just 7 laps to go. And Curtis continues to keep an eye on the V-carb in his mirrors. TJ in front of all of them here, P5. 10th Cannon and Harrison, Dan and Grumio. Again, Grumio's lead building has stagnated a bit more, but still sits at a whopping 7.2. That's half disconnects. Difficult day for Red Bull as a whole, difficult day for Ferrari. 2 of our front-running teams in the top 4 constructors having tough days. McLaren and Mercedes have had the best days here. Cook gets back around Curtis. The fight continues to rage on. And we'll hope there's no tempers flaring inside those 2 cockpits. Another pass made. Six laps. Grumio still in control. And you can't you couldn't see Dan going into the picture the last time round. Grumio's brought his lead up to 8 seconds now. And they'd need a safety car of some kind to try and sort of throw this race into any late disrepute. But things have been, so we save for the few shunts we've had in this Grand Prix, it's been largely quiet, especially with Grumio up front. Cook still giving pressure to Curtis. And Curtis a bit of a wider line there through turn 13. The V-carb not quite drawing alongside just yet. But you can tell he's looking. And as they've been doing this, JB has been closing that gap bit by tiny bit. And now finds himself inside overtaking range. Can he maintain it down towards turn 27? That's the big question. First race with the new Williams. Bit of a deeper line there from Curtis. And Cook diving from side to side, trying to find some kind of opening, but finding none. And JB now right behind these guys and looking potentially at most a P6 finish, trying to make up for last week. PJ passing Ethan behind. 5 more laps between these three to settle what could be P6 on the board. Grumio's lead shrinks ever so slightly here, but again, looking to put it back up. It was 8 seconds, down to go back down to 7. But he needs to be getting about a second and a half a lap here to stand any chance of catching Grumio this late on. And having been on those hard tyres for 10 laps, It's not something you really can do, I shouldn't think. Ben and Courtney going at it towards turn 1. P14 on the line for those two. Oh! A bit of a slide there from Grumio and a penalty too. But somehow increased his lead by a full second. The gap going back down again. But Grumio then, for the second week in a row, winds up with a penalty, but this time appears a much better place to try and outrun it. Dan 7.4 behind. Hasn't got much way of replying here. And Harrison will be hoping that Dan gets penalty of some kind, trying to get him to take P2 away. Of course, Harrison's best finish, 3rd place in China. And could have possibly been the win that day. But Harrison will be relieved to get himself back to the podium here. After a difficult round in Japan. And not a particularly difficult round in Bahrain, but still only a 6th place finish for him. Of course, expectations already quite high from him in the Alpine camp, given the sort of run he went on in his first 2 RDL races. Of course, the last one at reserve at the reverse grid finale in Austria last season. Dan trying to shrink Grimmir's lead a little bit here, but not making much progress. It's still about 7 seconds. And there'll be just 3 laps remaining when he crosses the line. There's a look at your biggest gainers of the Grand Prix so far. AT, of course, gaining 10 spots from his P19 starting position. And as it stands, on course to maintain it, despite the penalty. With Alvar being over 3 seconds back with the penalty of his own. It's then back to Ericsson, P11. So AT then going to score, or help Mercedes score a total of 27 points. But still 3 less than McLaren. So the lead will go to 14 points from McLaren and Mercedes. And Red Bull should likely stop to 3rd. So 3 tours left here in Jeddah, and JB will likely be licking his lips at the idea, perhaps, of 2 late race overtakes. As Cook goes past Curtis again, these two know to race each other through turn 4, which is always good. Bit of a wobble there from JB. He's been on those tyres for over half his race distance so far. There he goes to the inside. His first move being made in these two. Down the inside of Curtis. And if he fights Curtis, Cook will try and pull away. But isn't doing so. Two laps to go for Grumio. Up front, 6.8 the gap. Goes to the inside now, again blasting past on that right hand side. JB looking. And this time going for a move on the outside. There he goes, overtaking play. Gets 1. Can he get 2? He might get 2, you know. Goes blitzing past Curtis like it's nothing, but now he's got defended his position on the main straight, but has got more battery at least than Cook, not more than Curtis, and Curtis has got overtake to use as well. 2 laps to go, and if that had been the end of the race, then that would have been very close for 6th place. Curtis outbraking JB, but locking up a bit into turn 1. Squeezing JB towards the inside curve. That's going to allow Cook to take advantage on the inside. This 3-car race for 6th place. Getting closer and closer as the laps wind down. Lap and a half here left to go for Grumio. And down towards turn number 22 now. It's turn 13 again. These two are still fighting as hard as they can here. And JB looking to try and collect the scraps. We saw him make a move on the last lap. Can he do it again here, or is he lying in wait to ensure he receives overtake for the last lap? These two cars in front of them both have it, but the more they fight, the more they risk losing the ground for the car behind them. Up front, Grumio starts the 25th and final lap of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It's side by side down towards turn 22. Curtis wins out. Now, does JB stay in line? That's the question. Trying to put himself in to be the second car in the trains, keep overtake, but to avoid any having to pass Cook. And as that's going on, AT is closing the gap up. Of course, can't finish any higher than 9th right now, unless all three of these guys stack on the last lap. But shouldn't think they will. JB will get overtake, as will Cook. So Curtis has the place, but could be the battery deficit going on to the last lap. JB to the inside now. He's chasing the entire second stint. He's going for it now. This time he's on the outside, but goes wide there through turn 2. And Cook gets back past again. And losing a bit of grip there. Cook right behind Curtis. And this fight may go all the way to the flag here. And up front, it's less than half a lap to go for Grumio, who looks to be carrying on his 100% success rate. Somewhat similar to Max Verstappen in 2022. 100% win rate in the Grand Prix he took part in earlier on in the season. Every Grand Prix he's finished so far he's won. JB passing Cook again. We'll come back to that in a moment. But Grumio in through turn 27 for the 25th and last time to take his third win of the season. More wins than anyone else so far this campaign. And 75 points now his tally. Grumio comes to the line, and Salve Grumio wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Dan through for second, Harrison through for third, 10th, 4th, TJ 5th. Curtis, though, still hanging on for 6th. It's not over just yet, these three. Does JB have anything left? I feel like he's the one in the driver's seat now to try and take both of them. Here they come. Battery in play. JB to the outside, though. He's used all it up, though. And I think Curtis may have done enough. There goes AT to the outside. AT looking at places. In the last corner. Cook will beat him out of the last corner. It'll be Curtis P6. JB behind him. It's side by side to the line. AT gets Cook at the line. But AT's penalty means he falls down to 9th place. So Cook takes P8 away. JB. Another lap. Could he have got Curtis? Who knows? And Alvar will come through with Ericsson in tow, ensuring that Aston Martin will take 1 point from today's race. Their third point of the season, and Ericsson's first point of the campaign after 3 races started and no points scored. PJ crossed the line. The 2 Audis have a disappointing day overall. P12 and P13, I dare say, does not tell the full story. Of course, PJ with a 10-second penalty, to say the least, in terms of their worries. And Ben around the final corner himself, P14 at the flag. And Cottony Goblin will finish up the field here in P15. But Grumio, your winner. For the third time in the first 5 weeks of the campaign, your reigning champion again finds himself on top under the lights. And this time, much, much more comfortable than either of the first 2 race wins. Is this the Grumio of old, or is it something even better? Whatever way it is, it's win number 3 for the reigning champion. Flanked by Dan in second and Harrison in third. Harrison back to the podium for the first time since the race in China. And Dan, of course, continuing his 100% record of podium finishes this season and will lose a bit of ground to Grumio in the Drivers' Championship. Grumio getting a bit back from 23 down to 16 points. But Dan now 34 points. Sorry, now I scanned that. Grumio wins the race then from Dan in second, Harrison third, Tim Cannon P4, TJ sits in P5. It's Curtis P6, JB in P7, Cook, AT, Ericsson round out your field. Alvar in P11, Ethan P12, PJ P13, Ben P14. Cottony Goblin the last 2 finishers. It's your Websy, Huff, Cott, and Ben Spittles and Pope all failed to finish today. So definitely one of the more tame races around Jeddah, if I do say so myself, in terms of races I've seen in the past. The VSC definitely didn't see it coming the amount of times it did. I thought we'd see a lot. I thought we'd see the safety car at least once. So I thought the half crash was worth a safety car. But obviously, Grumio drove superbly all evening and built that lead up several times over. And it never looked like relinquishing it, really. So with that then, that'll be it for the Grand Prix itself. And we'll see if we get anyone joining us for post-race interviews. Still a number of fantastic races for a number of drivers here. Obviously, Grumio, I mean, the penalty he got at the very end, it doesn't really tell the full story either. It'll be marked down as finishing 4 seconds in front of Dan, but of course finished a good 7 seconds or so in front. He sort of took the lead on the start and never looked like relinquishing it at any stage, even if a safety car intervened. Harrison, of course, in third place, spent much of the first half of the Grand Prix in fourth, but managed to come through and pick up the pieces when half retired. 10th again, P4 for her, and a quiet race as well, so double the points for her tally this season, from 12 to 24. TJ and Curtis again at P5, P6, those two looking fantastic. TJ really sort of came into his own in the second half, and a good chance perhaps of beating 10th, especially in that first stint. Of course, pit stops turn them around a bit. And of course, JB back in the points in P7. Good score for that team. I think after last week, they really needed that. And of course, from there, you look at AT, who came from P19 to P9. That penalty definitely pushing back a little bit. And Ericsson nabbing points for Aston Martin for the first time this season. So Aston now on 3 points. And 6 points back from Audi. I've got two arrivals here. We've got both Ben and JB who have joined us in the comms box here. We'll come to JB first. JB, points on the board, mate. P7 for you. I think after last week, you guys at Williams needed that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was. I was a bit worried going into qualifying and wasn't anywhere near where I hoped to be. I mean, I hadn't done that much practice, but to qualify 15th was a bit disappointing. So, yeah, just took it steady, really. It does help a bit that you're not 100% pushing at the moment with the lifting and coasting in places. So, yeah, it meant I wasn't having to nail every entry or anything like that. So I just took it steady and, yeah, gradually caught up to Curtis and Cook at the end and had a good battle with them as well.
Yeah. I mean, you sort of slowly but surely closed down those two. I'll ask you this: if given sort of another lap or two, do you think you could have got Curtis at the very end?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't expecting to get Cook, so I'm not too disappointed that I didn't get Curtis. I think the thing is, it's ultimately it's very similar to DRS last year. It's whoever's behind has got the advantage on the last lap. I think the only reason Curtis held on was because I tried overtaking Cook up the inside of one of the hairpins. So, yeah, that was probably the only reason he was able to hold on. But, yeah, it was good that I had some decent pace today and was able to at least battle with some guys, which I didn't last week.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a much better race for you guys over at Williams. Looking to next week, I've got Miami next up. Is that a track we're looking forward to, these regulations?
I don't know about these regulations, but it's just not generally a great track for me. Tend to struggle, but you never know. It has a possibility of raining quite often. So if there's a wet race, I unfortunately missed the very wet race in Japan. So it would be nice to do a wet race again. But yeah, we'll just have to see. And yeah, hopefully keep the points going. And if I don't, then hopefully Lucky can when he's back as well.
So we'll see if Williams can clinch some points, perhaps next time if they're showered stateside in Miami. But yeah, good points for JB. Good job on the race today. We'll come now to Ben, who finished in P14 for VCarb. And Ben, I'll go get this in now. Better than last time, should we say, eh?
Yeah, it's better than last time, a lot better. But my tyres still gave up at the end, so that's why I had to pit late on. But all I'm saying is, can we finish the race on that one now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, you've been getting much better at these runs in the opening lap. Is there any sort of secret to that in particular?
Just drive fast, I guess. Just avoid all cars, just make sure you know where you're pointing your car and trying to read the situation around you.
I mean, it's been fantastic to watch. So I've always got to keep an eye out for you on these opening laps. Yeah, I mean, five races down, 5 races with regulations. How are we finding it so far in terms of? I mean, I imagine it feels quite different to sort of the regulations of old, yeah.
Yeah. To be honest with you, still not enjoying it. It's a lot more battery related, so I don't enjoy that. And then tyres just again seem to be an issue.
Yeah, true. But I mean, that was an issue with the old regs as well. So we'll remember that. But
Cheers,
I'm sorry. There's too many opportunities. Anyway, Miami next week. Are we looking to try and bounce back, get some more points for the team?
Well, just a point would be nice for the team. I would like
Yeah.
get to a point. I think Miami hopefully is going to be all right for me. Tyres don't seem to be too bad around there. Battery doesn't seem to be too bad. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I can fight for a point.
So looking for that first point. So looking for that first point of the campaign, but more points for the team as a collective from you and Cook. Have had a decent start to things so far as teammates. We're coming down to Cook, who did finish in the 8th position in the sister VCarb. Cook, good race, mate. Yeah, I mean, you were involved in that little scrap there with JB and Curtis towards the end. I'll ask JB, if you had a lap or two more, could you go back to 6th place in the end?
Who knows? Because I think what we've learnt now is we're not racing. It's just who can save the most battery. Very frustrating that I think Curtis did some borderline defending that led JB back into the fight. But then from there, from what I've seen, JB just had the mob battery at the end, which I managed to pass him. So who knows? It's been a whole completely different type of fish if we had more battery, but we'll take P8. I think it won in the end anyway. So.
I'll ask you this, obviously, I mean, what we've seen in the past few seasons is that Jeddah can be a slightly more chaotic race at times. Were you surprised at the lack of any safety cars at all during the race today?
Yeah, no, because I know how bad this game is actually doing safety cars in a sense. It's a lot more virtual now, from what I've realised. But I actually think there's a lot of respect for drivers between each other and or give each other room, and you don't really see the hard, like very, very, very hard racing. It's borderline, like, oh, there's a temporary wheel and maybe in a wall. So look, I would love the safe car. Probably the one where Huff, I think, decided he wanted to go and just take his wheel off at one at walls. But you just got to deal with the charge being given, and that's how it just went.
Do you know what? I'm gonna say this. I absolutely love how you answer these questions. Honestly, it's like listening to Max Verstappen. I'll be honest. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I just try to be professional as much as I can. Even though a massive frustrated out race went, you've just got to look at the positives and negatives and move on.
I mean, looking forward to Miami next week. Is that a race we'll try and channel the inner Verstappen some more?
Well, I'm also the inner Fernando. Are the two really? But now Miami's a different track, different sort of venue with battery. So, well, I've done a race there before, so I know exactly kind of the plan that I'll run with. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, there's no point really looking at strategy yet. It's all about who can have the more batteries. So, but at the end of the day, it's not down to who's the quickest. It's more down to who can manage the battery best, which as we're seeing at Minute Brumio at the minute. So we'll just have one next Monday and see what happens.
So we'll see then what Cook's got planned for the next week against different range of opponents around Miami. So good stuff then from Cook. More points on the board for VCarb as a whole. Come now to 10th Cannon, who finished in the 4th spot. 10th, fantastic race from you. And again, I mean, that's 2 point scores now. Is this the return of the 10th of old?
Well, I think you could say a lot about the racing gods and their biases, but one thing you can't accuse them of is misogyny. I caught a very lucky safety car in the middle of that race. I hope it's a return to form. I'm feeling good about my pace lately. It feels a bit closer to the norm, if not a little bit better. I actually feel like I've been running pretty good.
I mean, you and Dan now from McLaren increasing the lead in the Constructors' Championship as far as I know. Obviously, I know it's quite early, but is that a championship you guys have your eye on at this point?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was on our minds when we teamed up together. That was kind of the whole reason we did this in the first place. I mean, I think we can. I hope we can get it. I'm pretty confident now, a lot more than I was, because I think while Dan has retained his speed and continued to be as fast as ever, it's Dan. I think I've found my stride a little bit, and I don't. While I'm not sure if I'll continue to finish this high this often, it's a good omen. I'm glad to be back in the points again.
Definitely. I mean, I'll ask about Miami next week. Obviously, points there last season for you, 8th place in that race. Is that a position that you can improve on, or not so much?
Can I just sit in the back of Dan's car and drive that way? I don't want to do Miami. It's probably going to be fine. I don't like Miami very much, but I don't find any tracks to be particularly troublesome in terms of pace. So, I mean, obviously, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I started the season with 3 finishes out of the points, so whether that'll keep up, I don't know. I don't think I'll finish out the points, but I don't know. We'll just have to turn up on the day next week and see.
So plenty to look forward to for 10th then after 2 straight 4th place finishes. P4 of her tonight in Jeddah.
Yeah.
And we'll come now last forward to Harrison, who finished in the 3rd spot. Harrison, 2nd podium of the season there, mate. Fantastic job as always. One thing I did want to ask you, sort of quite early on in the race, you were sort of there in 4th place behind Dan Huff. Was there anything in particular keeping you from going forward and challenging those guys?
Well, obviously with this regulation change and obviously with the lack of battery capacity, I'd just waiting for them just to make a mistake or have a collision together. Because there's no point in me trying obviously to get by and then I've used my battery, so I literally just decided just to stay there, let them battle. And obviously when it came to the pit stops, Hoff made that mistake coming out of the exit. I don't know where, but yeah.
Was there a sort of like a sigh of relief there when Huff did that, or not so much?
Well, obviously I wouldn't have known if he would have caught obviously myself and Dan up. Obviously he did come behind. I forget who it was. Was it you, Cannon, or was it someone else?
Might have been me.
Yeah, it might have been you.
I don't know.
But
I was
but obviously
as well.
yeah, but obviously we don't know what his pace was like. It would have been like on those hards if he would have caught us back up, but unfortunately, racing's racing. Unfortunately.
Fair enough. I mean, I'll say this though. I mean, from your first 5 races in the league, I mean, you're up to what I'm guessing it'll be around sort of P4 in the championship. Given how close you've been, sort of the Dan Huff and Grumio in these first few rounds, is there a chance you can push forward and try and challenge them in points as well?
Well, that's always my aim. I'll try and get the best points position that I can. Obviously, I'm still trying to adjust to the new regs with the battery. Qualifying's mainly my weak side. Race is getting better, but obviously that's just track dependent. As you saw, obviously at previous races like Japan, where I had a pace issue and I had a couple of issues with my wheel on that race as well, but they're sorted, so I should hopefully try and get my pace back up.
And looking ahead to Miami, is that a track with potential for a good result?
When I've raced around it previously on the other games, it's been kind of mixed. Personally, I'm not a fan of the track. I don't mind racing it, but I'm just not a fan. Mainly because I just find the middle sector and the last sector kind of boring because it's literally just a straight with a couple of chicanes in it. There's not really any challenge for the driver, so to say. But yeah, as I said, I don't really like the track, but I'll still race it. It's like the first sector is a challenge, but yeah.
Well, plenty to look forward to in terms of me going forward based on pace, Harrison. Obviously, a good job today on the podium finish. Another one for you in the bag from these first couple of rounds. And you can find out what happens next time on the in the Race Driving League in terms of that race in Miami coming your way on the 20th of July. That will do it then for tonight's coverage of the league. Hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more future audio content. Have an absolutely fantastic week. Goodbye from us here, and we will see you all in the next race.